Minneapolis. How are you feeling? George Floyd is not the first innocent black man to be murdered at the hands of police officers in Minnesota. Of the ones that we know, there was Thurman Blevins, who begged two white cops, "Please leave me alone, don't shoot me," as he's running away from them. And there was Philando Castile, who was shot and murdered in his car with his wife in the front seat and his young daughter in the back, for simply telling the police officer, "I am a rights-bearing citizen. I have a license to carry, and I have it, but I'm reaching for my wallet. I'm reaching for my wallet," as the police officer instructed him, for license and registration. Because of this jumpy, fearful, mistrained, trigger-happy police officer who held more power in his gun than the mental capacity to have a calm conversation with a rights-bearing black citizen. These people are no longer here. At the end of all of these cases, the Supreme Court or Minnesota State Court has concluded that the officers will not be convicted and that there was no violation of MPD policy, and that excessive force and that death is permitted. All these officers knew that they would not be held accountable for their actions because they knew of the institutions that held them up and even honored them for killing yet another black man. So let us be upset. Yeah, let us be angry. Let us be sad. Let us feel these generations of pain and oppression. Let us be upset at all four cops who were involved in the murder of George Floyd. All four. There are 3 on his body, and there was one who was blocking it. Who was blocking people from even seeing the other 2. All 4 of them are guilty. Let us be upset at these officers, but let's also be upset at their bosses and their bosses' bosses and their bosses' 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 bosses. The institutions that are in place that allow them to continue to do this to us. The people that we voted for that defend bills that are directly against our interest. Those that uphold the system and see no problem with it, with the murder upon murder of our people, with putting us in environments of food deserts and leaving us uninsured, yet still blaming us for our poor health, for giving us a lesser quality education, yet say that we have lower ACT scores and that we shouldn't get into big schools. Even after redlining our communities and starving us of resources and nutrients that we need because we are normal as people. Even after science proves that there is no difference, no biological difference between the races, you still treat us like animals. So I get it. I get it. I walk in my skin and my hair and my physical features, my phenotypes every day. Not just in the States, but around the world. Anti-blackness is around the world in all communities, even communities of color. These people, these police officers who we're told are here to protect and serve. Well, I'd like to know, who exactly are they protecting and serving? Because it's clearly not us. The police force was created originally for the capturing of slaves. Of us. That's how we got here. This institution began with the purpose of harming and murdering Black people, with capturing and holding hostage Black people who tried to resist, those of us attempting to be free. This is an institution that was founded on discrimination, being able to discriminate those they pose as a threat and those they pose as people simply existing. Thus, they are trained to discriminate, to detain, and to see as guilty until proven guilty criminals. Animalistic criminals. It is clear that there have been infiltrators and instigators and agitators who do not actually care about this fight. They care about either the destruction of Black and brown communities and or to blame Black people even more so that they can validate their mistreatment against us. They want us to seem like animals, guilty animal criminals. It is not possible to reform an institution such as this. We must rebuild. We must rebuild our idea of safety. We must rebuild our small POC businesses that have been harmed in this fight. We must rebuild our POC and indigenous communities by uniting. We must rebuild our education system. We must rebuild our housing system. We must rebuild our supposed democratic system. We must rebuild the entire relationship between people of color and white people. We must. Even the good whites. Okay? But more importantly, we must rebuild our tactics in this fight. Brothers and sisters, because y'all are my age out there rioting, let us redirect our expressions of pain towards avenues that will benefit us the most for now in this moment and for later. We all know that this is not just about cops and police brutality. This is about the entire system set up in the United States to keep Black people oppressed and to further keep people of color oppressed, to further murder and get rid of us. Not today. Let's consider the institutions that keep the police in power, that hold them in their power. Let's think about the elected officials of Minnesota who we elected, we voted for to represent us, such as Amy Klobuchar, whose office is downtown, or Tina Smith, maybe. Let's consider the other institutions at play, such as the Minneapolis Housing Authority. That's the coalition of landlords. Let us consider the Hennepin County Bureau of Investigation. Let us consider the FBI here in Minnesota. Let's consider not just the stores, but the corporations. This is a systematic problem, and we're only dealing with the surface effects of it. Listen up, Minneapolis. Got some things for y'all to do. Ready? It's clear that there's a lot of white youth out there. It seems like there's more whites than Blacks. So it's hard to know who are allies and who's here to infiltrate. Since there's really no way of telling, I suggest this. We bring back Black Panther style, okay? We have teams of people watching, patrolling, not only the cops, but the people who are setting our community ablaze. People who care about the system that killed George Floyd and continues to kill black people would not directly hurt our community. That doesn't make any sense to me. There are people here who are using this as an opportunity, and we must know who they are so that we can prepare further. If you want to protest and resist in a way that is not rioting, I have some suggestions. Let's put our energy in bringing more awareness to actual reasons why we are feeling pain. There will be an action coming soon that involves the arts and involves putting our energy towards different buildings. Stay tuned for that. We're going to need heaps of volunteers and paper, by the way, so start getting your stuff in order, please. Hey, white allies, how you doing? Here are some suggestions. No, these are not suggestions. Here's some steps for y'all. If you really care about the cause, if you really care about the fight, capital T, capital F, here's some things that you should do. We ask you to engage in those uncomfortable conversations with your racist loved ones or co-workers, because we don't have the energy to do so, and we shouldn't have the energy to do so. It's not our job to do so. We must impact our sub-communities that we're in. If everyone pays attention to their sub-communities, we'll all be on the same page eventually. A very important thing that you can do is to pay attention to the discrimination, the daily, day-to-day discrimination between you and people of color in your same environment. When you go to stores, for example, watch who they watch so that you can physically see what they put us through. I'm just trying to buy some chips. I don't know where you live, but leaving your comfortable white environments and coming to our spaces to see what kind of resources we have and the ones that we don't have, to physically see the disproportionate amount of grocery stores, of fast food restaurants, of Boost mobiles in my community versus yours, of clinics, of fancy schools, of nice libraries, of community spaces where people can express themselves through art, of office buildings, of mom and pop restaurants. Look at the disproportionate amount on both sides and think about how that ties into the pain and the lived experiences of Black and brown people, because they manifest in those ways. So please use your energy, use your resources, use your skin color, your privileges, all of us, and with all of our different privileges, because privilege is a spectrum. Let's use those for the good fight. The revolution was never meant to be easy, but it will be well worth it. Not just for us, but for the generations before us who died for our rights, and the ones after us who will reap the benefits of our hard work and will have to do even more work. This is for everyone, not just for us, not just for me. This is for all. This is the common humanity revolution. And the revolution will not be televised, but it will be streamed and live. So with that, cheers to you and your peers. Anaya Spears.